Today, we're diving into something fascinating. How tiny, almost invisible actions can, well, totally transform your life. And to kick things off, there's this really powerful story about James Clear, the author of our source material. Picture this. High school athlete, super dedicated, and then bam, a baseball bat swings back, hits him right in the face. And it wasn't just, a minor thing. It was near fatal, severe brain swelling, medically induced coma. He had to relearn basic stuff. Then, getting back to baseball, the thing he loved. He gets cut from the varsity team. Imagine the humiliation.
Yeah, it's a crushing story.
Mm-hmm.
But what's incredible, and really the heart of what we're talking about today, is that his comeback wasn't some, overnight miracle. He eventually became an all-conference player in college, but it happened through these tiny, consistent changes, what he calls atomic habits.
Atomic habits. Okay, so break that down. What does atomic really mean here?
Well, it's got a dual meaning, right? It means
Right.
an extremely small amount, like an atom. But it also means the source of immense energy or power. And that's the idea. These tiny habits are the building blocks, but they hold this latent power that compounds into huge results over time.
Right. So our mission today isn't just about, get motivated. We hear that all the time and it fades. We want to actually unpack the practical systems, the strategies you can use to build lasting change, to become the person you want to be.
Exactly. It's about the mechanics behind the habits, why they work with our nature, not against it. Designing your life so progress is almost inevitable.
Okay, so let's start with something fundamental, progress. We usually expect it to be linear, don't we? Put in work, get results. Simple.
Yeah, that's the expectation. But reality is usually messier. There's often that frustrating phase where you're putting in the effort day after day, but nothing seems to be happening. Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential. It's a great way to think about it.
Plateau of latent potential. Okay.
Imagine an ice cube. The room temperature goes from, say, 25 degrees up to 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing happens, right? The ice cube just sits there. But then it hits 32 degrees, just one more degree, and suddenly, wham, it starts melting. It transforms.
Okay, so all that energy going in from 25 to 31 wasn't wasted?
Not at all. It was building up, doing crucial work below the surface, totally unseen. Until that tipping point. It explains why so many people quit right before the breakthrough. They don't see the hidden progress.
That really connects to the whole atomic idea, how those tiny 1% changes stack up. Can you talk more about that compounding effect? It seems small day to day.
Oh, it's incredibly powerful. Think about an airplane flying from LA to New York. If the nose is pointed just 3.5 degrees south, tiny adjustment, you wouldn't even notice it walking onto the plane. You don't land in NYC. You end up hundreds of miles off course, maybe in Washington, D.C. That's compounding. Little errors compound into, toxic results. But the flip side is true, too. Those 1% improvements, day after day, they compound into massive gains. We see it everywhere. Productivity, you automate one small task, saves you hours over a year. Knowledge, like Warren Buffett says, it compounds like interest. Relationships too small. Consistent kindnesses build incredibly strong bonds.
It really shifts the perspective, and it makes you question the standard advice about setting massive goals. Clear actually argues focusing only on goals can be, kind of damaging. Why is that?
It's a really key distinction. Achieving a goal it's a moment in time. It changes your life for that moment. But what happens after? Think about marathon runners. Many stop training right after the race. The goal was the driver, and once it's gone, poof, the system falls apart.
The yo-yo effect.
Exactly. That's why focusing on the system, the daily practices, the routines is so much more sustainable.
So Ayan, if you just ignored your goals altogether, just focused 100% on the system, would you still get there? It feels a bit weird.
That's pretty much the argument, yeah. If your system is right, if you're consistently doing the things that lead towards improvement, the results, the outputs, they'll largely take care of themselves. The deeper thing here is falling in love with the process. If you enjoy the system, you get satisfaction every day you run it, not just on the rare occasion you hit a massive goal. It builds momentum.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about the journey, not just the destination. And that journey, he says, needs to start with who you want to be, not just what you want to achieve. Which brings us to this idea of identity-first change. Why is identity the starting point?
Because your identity is like your internal compass, your North Star for habits. Most people try to change from the outside in. Outcome, I want to lose weight. Process, okay, I'll diet. But the most powerful change starts from the inside out. Identity. I want to become the type of person who is healthy and active.
Right, because if you secretly believe, I'm just not a morning person, trying to wake up early feels like you're fighting yourself constantly.
Totally. Our brains work really hard to maintain our self-image. Those negative beliefs, I'm bad with money, I'm not disciplined, they become these self-fulfilling prophecies. It's hard to act against your own identity.
So how do we actually shift that identity? It sounds kind of abstract.
It becomes concrete through action. Every time you perform a habit, it's like casting a vote for the type of person you want to be. You finish a workout. That's a vote for, I am someone who exercises. You choose fruit over chips. A vote for, I am someone who eats healthy. You read a chapter. Vote for, I'm a reader.
Ah, casting votes. I like that.
Yeah, and these votes add up. Consistently cast enough votes, and the evidence starts to pile up. Your brain starts to update its beliefs about who you are. You literally become your habits.
That makes every small choice feel, well, way more significant. Okay, so to build these identity-based habits, Clear gives us a framework, the 4 laws of behavior change. He talks about this 4-step loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. That's the backbone of every habit. How do the laws help us work with that loop?
Yeah, the 4 laws are basically the levers we can pull to make good habits happen and bad habits not happen. They target each part of that loop. It builds on earlier ideas, sure, but it really integrates things like our thoughts and feelings too. It's very practical.
Okay, let's dive in. Law 1, make it obvious. Why is simply making a habit obvious so critical? Seems simple.
Well, think about how many habits you run on autopilot. You don't consciously decide to brush your teeth or put on your seatbelt, usually. Your brain automates common behaviors to save mental energy. The problem is, we often run bad habits on autopilot too, without even realizing it.
Right, like Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So awareness first.
Exactly. That's why the habit scorecard is a great starting point. Just literally write down everything you do in a day. It shines a light on what's actually happening.
Okay, so you see the habit, then what?
Then you make the cue obvious for the habits you want. Use implementation intentions. Don't just say, I want to exercise more. Make a concrete plan. I will do the behavior at this time in this specific place. Like I will do 20 push-ups at 7 a.m. in my living room.
That specificity really makes a difference, doesn't it? I remember reading about a study on this.
Huge difference. One study showed people with a specific plan for exercising were like over 90% likely to follow through, compared to less than 40% for those who just had the general intention. It removes the guesswork.
And then there's habit stacking. That one's clever. Using an existing habit as the trigger for a new one.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You already have these established neural pathways for your current habits. So just piggyback the new habit onto one. The formula is, after my current habit, I will pull your mountain habit, my new habit. So after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. You link them together.
It leverages momentum. And a big part of making cues obvious is environment design. You mentioned earlier how our surroundings shape us.
Massively. We often think willpower is the key, but our environment is often way more powerful. Think about that hospital cafeteria study.
Oh yeah, the water versus soda one?
Right. They didn't try to convince anyone to drink less soda. They just made water bottles more visible and accessible in the fridges near the checkout. Soda sales dropped over 11%. Water sales jumped nearly 26%, just by changing the visual cues.
That's incredible. No nagging, no posters, just changing what's easy to see and grab.
And it makes sense, right? Something like 10 million of our 11 million sensory receptors are dedicated to sight. Visual cues are dominant.
Like that fly sticker in the urinals at Schiphol Airport.
Exactly. Cut cleaning costs by 8% just by giving guys something to aim for. A tiny visual cue driving behavior. So the takeaway is, design your spaces. Fill them with cues for good habits, remove cues for bad ones.
And be mindful of context, too. Like, using your phone for work and social media in the same spot makes it harder.
Absolutely. Habits get tied to the entire context, the location, the time, the people around you. If your couch is where you watch TV, relax, and try to work, you're sending mixed signals to your brain. This is why people often described as disciplined aren't necessarily stronger-willed. They're just better at structuring their lives to avoid the tempting cues in the first place.
Which leads perfectly into the inversion of Law 1. Make it invisible. For breaking bad habits, just remove the cue.
Precisely. Self-control is like a muscle. It gets fatigued. It's a short-term fix. Environment control is the long-term strategy. Look at the Vietnam War veterans and heroin use. It's a stark example. Addiction rates were high in Vietnam where the drug was available and the environment supported its use.
But when they came home,
almost 90% just stopped without relapse. Why? The environment changed completely. The cues were gone. Compare that to typical rehab outcomes where relapse rates are incredibly high when people return to the same environment with the same cues.
wow. So practically, this is like Unplugging the game console and putting it in the closet, leaving your phone in another room when you need to focus.
Exactly that. Make the cues for your unwanted habits invisible. Out of sight, truly out of mind, or at least much less top of mind.
Okay, that covers making cues obvious or invisible. Let's move to law 2. Make it attractive. This taps into our reward system, right? But it's more about the anticipation.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter everyone talks about, isn't just about pleasure. It's released in anticipation of a reward. It's what drives the craving, the motivation to act. Remember those rat experiments? Blocking dopamine didn't stop rats from liking sugar water, but it stopped them from wanting it. They lost the motivation to seek it out, even to the point of dehydration.
So the wanting is separate from the liking.
Distinct systems. The anticipation, thinking about the vacation, looking forward to dinner, that dopamine spike, can often feel more powerful than the actual experience.
Okay, so how do we use that to make good habits, which might not seem inherently fun, more attractive?
A great technique is temptation bundling. You pair something you want to do with something you need to do.
Like the guy who hacked his exercise bike.
Ronan Byrne, yeah, an engineering student. He rigged his bike so his laptop would only play Netflix if he was cycling at a certain speed. He bundled the need exercise with the want watching Netflix.
It's genius.
The formula is simple. After I do habit I need, I will get to do habit I want, or even during. Only when I am doing habit I need can I do habit I want.
Makes total sense. And what about the influence of other people, social norms?
Huge. We're fundamentally social creatures. We want to fit in. We imitate the habits of 3 groups in particular: the close, family, friends; the many, the tribe, the crowd; and the powerful, those with status.
Like the Polgar sisters in chess.
Perfect example. Their father deliberately created a home environment where chess was the norm, it was valued, it was attractive. They didn't become grandmasters by accident. They grew up immersed in a culture that made intense chess study feel normal, even desirable.
So the advice is, join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior.
Exactly. Find a tribe where people are already doing what you want to do. Want to get fit? Join a running group or a CrossFit gym. Want to read more? Join a book club. It makes the habit seem much more attractive and achievable.
And can we just change how we think about a habit, like mentally make it more appealing?
Definitely. That's reframing. How you interpret a habit matters. Instead of thinking, ugh, I have to go for a run, reframe it as, it's time to build endurance and clear my head.
Or saving money isn't sacrifice, it's building future freedom.
Precisely. You shift the narrative from burden to benefit. You associate the habit with a positive feeling or outcome in your mind.
Okay, makes sense. Next up, law 3. Make it easy. This feels very intuitive. We naturally drift towards the easy option.
It's the law of least effort. Our brains are wired to conserve energy. We will almost always choose the path of least resistance. So if you want to build a habit, you have to make it easy to start.
And this ties into frequency being more important than perfection, especially early on.
Absolutely. Remember that photography class example. The professor divided students into 2 groups. One was graded on the quantity of photos they submitted, the other on the quality of a single photo.
And the quantity group took better pictures.
Ironically, yes, because they were just shooting constantly. They experimented, learned from mistakes, honed their skills through sheer repetition. The quality group spent most of their time theorizing about the perfect shot and ended up with mediocre results. Habits form through frequency, through reps, not necessarily through duration or intensity at first.
So how do we make things easy in practice? Reduce the friction.
Reduce friction is the name of the game. Think of a garden hose with a kink in it. You can try to force more water through, that's like forcing motivation, or you could just unkink the hose, remove the friction. Environment optimization is key here again. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Chop vegetables for the week on Sunday. Keep your book on your pillow. Make the first step incredibly easy.
Like those small government changes, making online forms simpler, boosting completion rates?
Exactly. Small reductions in friction can lead to big changes in behavior. Technology helps a lot here too, obviously. Voice commands, one-click ordering, autofill forms.
And the killer app for making things easy seems to be the 2-minute rule.
Oh, it's fantastic. The idea is when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes.
So you're just mastering the art of showing up.
Precisely. You standardize before you optimize. The goal isn't the full workout or chapter initially. It's just to overcome inertia and start. Make the beginning so easy you can't say no. Build the identity of someone who starts, the rest follows.
Okay. And the flip side for bad habits, inversion of law 3, make it difficult. Add friction.
Add friction. Make the unwanted behavior harder to do. This often involves using commitment devices.
Like Victor Hugo locking up his clothes.
The classic story. Facing a deadline for the Hunchback of Notre Dame, he supposedly had his assistant lock away all his clothes except a large shawl, making it impossible for him to go outside. He forced himself to stay in and write.
Extreme, but it worked.
It illustrates the principle. You make a choice in the present that locks you into better behavior in the future. Other examples are maybe less dramatic. Buying snacks in small, single-serving packages instead of giant bags. Asking a casino to put you on their banned list. Leaving your credit cards at home when you go to the mall.
You're basically creating obstacles for your future self.
You are. And the ultimate way to make good habits easy and bad habits difficult is often automation.
Setting things up once to run automatically.
Exactly. Think of the invention of the cash register. John Henry Patterson's store was failing because employees were stealing. The cash register automated honesty by making theft practically impossible. It locked in ethical behavior.
And saved his business.
Turned it profitable almost overnight. For us, it's things like setting up automatic savings transfers, automatic bill pay, using software filters to block distracting websites. One-time actions that deliver ongoing benefits.
Okay, final law. Law 4, make it satisfying. This feels like the payoff.
It is. The cardinal rule of behavior change is, what is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. Simple as that.
But the problem, as you mentioned, is that many good habits have delayed rewards, while bad habits often offer immediate pleasure, like smoking or eating junk food.
Right. We live in a delayed return environment. Exercise pays off months later. Saving pays off years later. But our brains evolved in an immediate return environment. Eat the bear now, run from the tiger now. We're biased towards immediate gratification.
So how do we make good habits satisfying right now?
We need to find ways to make it immediately satisfying. Inject some immediate reward into the process. Remember that hand-washing study in Karachi, Pakistan? Getting people to wash their hands consistently is hard, even though the health benefits are huge but delayed.
So what did they do?
They partnered with Procter & Gamble to provide Safeguard soap. It smelled nice, it lathered well, it made the experience of washing hands slightly more pleasant, more satisfying in the moment. Hand-washing rates soared, and rates of diarrhea and respiratory infections dropped significantly.
Wow. So the immediate sensory experience made the difference.
It bridged the gap. The key is finding a short-term reward that reinforces your desired identity, not conflicts with it. So maybe tracking your workout streak, or putting money you would have spent on cigarettes into a jar for a vacation. Something that feels good now and aligns with your goal.
Which brings us to habit tracking, seeing your progress visually.
Yes, tracking is incredibly satisfying for the human brain. Seeing that chain of X's on a calendar, watching your savings account grow, moving paper clips from one jar to another like that salesman Trent Deersmith did for his sales calls, it provides clear evidence of progress.
And that crucial rule, never miss twice.
That's vital for tracking. Missing one day is an accident, life happens. But missing 2 days in a row, that's the beginning of a new, unwanted habit. The focus isn't perfection, it's getting back on track immediately after slipping up. Don't let one mistake derail you.
But there's a potential pitfall with tracking, right? Goodhart's law.
Ah, yes. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. You have to be careful you're tracking something that actually reflects the outcome you want, not just optimizing a metric for its own sake, like a restaurant focusing only on revenue per table instead of, say, customer satisfaction, which might be a better long-term indicator.
Good point. Now, the inversion. Make it unsatisfying for bad habits. How do you make procrastination or unhealthy choices immediately painful?
You need to introduce an immediate cost. Roger Fisher's wild idea about the nuclear launch codes is a thought experiment here.
Implanting them near a volunteer's heart.
Yeah, the idea was the president would have to physically kill someone to launch the nukes, making the consequence horrifyingly immediate and personal, not abstract. It highlights the need to make the costs of bad habits feel real right now.
Okay, less dramatically, how do we apply that?
Habit contracts are a practical way. You make a formal agreement, maybe even written down, stating your commitment to avoid a bad habit. And you specify a punishment if you fail.
And you need someone to hold you accountable.
An accountability partner is key, someone you report to. Brian Harris used this for weight loss. His contract had penalties like having to dress up ridiculously for work, donate money to a cause he disliked, or wear a rival sports team's jersey if he missed his goals. The social cost, the embarrassment, the financial penalty, it makes the consequence of slipping up immediate and undesirable.
It adds that immediate social pressure. Okay, so we have the four laws. How do we keep the momentum going long term and tailor this to ourselves? What about genetics?
Right, genes play a role. They predispose us towards certain talents or personality traits, but they don't determine our destiny. The key is to understand your predispositions and work with them, not against them. Don't try to be a champion weightlifter if you're built like a marathon runner. Play a game where the odds are in your favor.
Find your niche. Combine your skills in a unique way.
Exactly. Like Scott Adams, the Dilbert creator, maybe not the world's best artist or funniest comedian, but his combination of drawing skill, corporate experience, and sarcastic humor created a unique, winning niche. Boiling water softens a potato, but hardens an egg. Find the environment where you thrive.
And then there's the challenge of staying motivated when things aren't new anymore. The Goldilocks rule.
Yes, motivation peaks when we're working on tasks that are right on the edge of our current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just manageable difficulty. That's the sweet spot for engagement.
But eventually, even optimally challenging tasks can become routine. Boredom sets in.
Boredom is the great villain of habit formation. This is where you have to, as Clear says, fall in love with boredom. Professionals stick with the practice even when it's not exciting. They understand that mastery requires repetition.
Like Steve Martin practicing comedy routines for years.
18 years, facing fear and potential failure weekly before he became that overnight sensation. It also helps to understand variable rewards like slot machines. The unpredictability keeps us hooked. Fighting boredom, finding ways to introduce variability into your routines can help.
And finally, the importance of checking in. Reflection and review.
Absolutely essential. Habits can decay if you don't pay attention. You need systems for review. Pat Riley did this with the Lakers' career best effort program, tracking stats, pushing for that 1% improvement constantly.
Constant feedback.
Or like Chris Rock testing jokes, or executives keeping decision journals. You need to periodically look at your habits and ask, are these still serving me? Are they aligned with who I want to be? Maybe an annual review or an integrity report.
And one last crucial point about identity, don't tie it too tightly to one specific role or achievement.
Right. If your whole identity is I am a CEO or I am a starting quarterback, what happens if you lose that job or get injured? It can lead to a real crisis. Better to have a more flexible identity based on your values and character traits. I am resilient, I am curious, I am reliable. Keep your identity small, less brittle.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What this deep dive really shows is the incredible, almost unbelievable power of small, consistent actions.
Yeah, they don't just add up, they compound across every area of your life. It's about designing your habits, designing your environment, and ultimately designing the person you become.
It puts the power firmly back in your hands. Every tiny choice is a vote.
It really is. The potential for change is immense, starting from these seemingly insignificant steps.
So as you go about your week, maybe think about this. What's one tiny atomic habit you could start today? Just one small vote for the person you want to become. And maybe just as important, what's one bent hose in your life, one point of friction you could remove that would make progress flow almost effortlessly towards where you want to go? Give that some thought. That tiny shift could be the start of something huge.